This is Scale Her Up, the podcast for female-led businesses ready to grow to 7 figures and beyond. I'm Dr. Brenda Hector, business coach and champion for women in business. I'm on a mission to change the statistics and help more women scale successfully. Each week, we share real stories, tools, and tactics to help you build a business that supports the life you want. Follow the show and come and join our Scale Her Up Facebook community. You don't have to do this on your own. And today with me on the podcast is Nathalie Agnew. She's the Managing Director of Muckle Media PR Agency. Nathalie, thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks, Brenda. Looking forward to it.
We'll start the same place I start with all of my guests. Tell me a bit about your business, Muckle Media and PR.
Yes, so we're a small group of communications agencies, predominantly based out of Scotland, but with big plans, particularly this year, to work more with UK-wide briefs for global brands. We specialise in a few different areas. Acquired a specialist drinks agency based out of Speyside called Spey. Also acquired a hospitality agency called Taste, which is all about driving revenue for hotels and restaurant multi-site groups. And then at Muckle Media, we deliver sort of corporate and consumer PR, social media and influencer engagement.
Awesome. You've touched on some of the types of businesses that you work with. What are the challenges that they're facing that you help them overcome?
Yeah, so we specialise in earned media, which is effectively earning the opportunity to reach your audience, maybe in a slightly more creative and different way. So that could be through media placement of editorial coverage. So that could be a product launch. It could be a nice creative campaign or a stunt. And it can also be thought leadership and lots of other things in between.
And it's helping raise awareness and generate leads for...
Absolutely, yes. The technical definition, if you look it up in the dictionary of public relations, is about communicating key messages to manage reputation with your audience. But there's obviously a lot more to it.
And tell me about so you're the managing director. Where did you start the business yourself? Yeah, tell me about that then.
I grew up in the Highlands in Dingwall and went to Napier to university, studied communications. I moved back to Dingwall looking for a global PR job. And at the time, I really struggled to get that first job. There were not many of them available at that stage. And obviously, the world's changed quite a lot now with remote working. And I think the Highlands and Islands is really vibrant now. But this is going back over 20 years. So I ended up in London and got some really good experience in a global communications agency group. Had a couple of interesting jobs in London working on global campaigns for brands like British Airways, Tata Consultancy Services, Huawei, the Chinese telecoms operator. So some really big brands, big budgets, really interesting work I was doing there. But then in 2012, I wanted to move home. I looked at the jobs market and it changed, and there were definitely jobs there, but it just didn't really excite me the way that the role I was doing in London excited me and was different every day. So I decided to do my own thing. I moved back to Dingwall, bought a little flat and started Muckle Media in my living room, really. That was 14 years ago. And since then...
I guess post-COVID, the virtual working has exploded. That long ago, it wouldn't have been so easy to do. Did you struggle with customers, the global customers that wanting you being in Dingwall, yeah?
Yeah, that's right. So I started out probably more as a freelance really than an agency, just myself. And I was traveling a lot. People were asking me to be in London tomorrow. They were offering to pay for it. They were covering my travel. But I felt I was leaving home at 5 a.m. to get the 7 a.m. flight to London, coming home at midnight and thinking that isn't really what I had in mind when I wanted to leave London. So I guess there was a bit of that combined with I'm not really a lone worker. I'm not somebody that enjoys that sort of culture. I enjoy working in a team and I like someone to chat to, really. So I did feel like I was working at home on my own. Wasn't quite what I'd planned as such. So I had to move quite quickly to think about how do I bring enough revenue in to get my first employee? And that was really at the first stage of just about having a colleague, having some structure, having an office building, getting dressed appropriately for the workplace.
Yeah.
someone to chat to and have some lunch with or whatever. So that was my first taste of employing people. And it just grew from there, really. And between a combination of building up the client list and I guess going from potentially working maybe with smaller SMEs in the early days through to now we work with really big established global companies. So it was a combination of winning work organically by pitching for business, often against much bigger global competitors. And also I've acquired 3 businesses over that time. And each time I've done that, it's brought some extra skills to the business. It's brought some new people in. It's given us some different perspectives. And obviously the key benefit being as well, bringing in different client lists as well.
So I'll talk about the acquisition thing in a minute. Let's go to the pitching up, going up against the big guys. Why do you think you were winning these jobs against the big, why do customers come choose you?
Yeah, so a couple of things I think. Having come from big global agency networks, they can become quite corporate and a little bit faceless. Often the business model is really based around having quite junior teams deliver the legwork. In a pitching situation, the team that comes in to deliver the pitch, you might never see them again. And I think people are wise to that now. They understand that and they want to meet the actual account team. So whilst I've grown the team, there's about 30 of us. We do about £2.5 million a year of fees. I'm still really interested and engaged across the client mix and bringing ideas to the table, managing relationships, obviously with the team leader and really doing what they're good at. But I think there's you get a different service from a founder led business that's really invested in the success versus a sort of 50,000 people around the world in 50 different offices. That's quite a different environment, really.
Yeah, I like that. When it's founder led, there's your heart's still in it.
Uh-huh, absolutely.
Does that cause problems though, because you're still very much involved?
I don't think it does. So I think it did in the earlier days. I know your podcast is about how to scale a business. And to me, I think so much of scaling a business is making sure that you are not the business and the business can operate with you. So yeah, in the early days, and I would class that probably be in the first 10 years. So it's quite a long slog. I really struggled to go on holiday and I would lead a pitch and position myself as being the person that people wanted to buy into, and then really try and overstretch myself around where I would be involved and what I'd be engaged in. I think I've matured as the business has matured and really understanding in order to grow a business successfully and make it good for everybody, including me, but also including the team and providing them opportunities. We use the phrase a lot, delegate and elevate. So that's really about everybody having a clear role, understanding what their role is within the business, and then helping others below them to step up as well so that we can all progress.
I
And
really like that because
yeah,
if you don't delegate, you can't elevate the people below you.
absolutely. It's easier said than done, I would say.
Yeah.
And I want to be really open. I don't have a perfect business. I don't think that such a thing exists. So there's always challenges. There's always points of challenge, isn't there? It's certainly something we're working towards is how do we really empower everybody to own their role. And just this last year, I've worked really closely with our operations director to create a bespoke competency framework, which is really unique to our business. So it's very clear on the competencies that we require at every level of the business and hopefully provides the team with a really good understanding of what they should be doing at their level and how they can progress. Again, being quite open and candid. We've almost been a victim of our own success in that we've retained the team and we've developed the team. So we're becoming quite top heavy. And that's a complaint from the team that have been promoted is that we really need to backfill as well. So we need to keep growing to be able to keep bringing fresh talent in. Otherwise, everybody can't delegate and elevate if they don't have that, if we're too top heavy. So that's something we're really working hard to address at the moment.
That's great. What have you learned about yourself over the years as an entrepreneur?
Yeah, it's a really good question. Something interesting I've done is the insights profiling. So
Oh
we've
yeah.
done that within our leadership team. And if you're familiar with the color wheel, you have cool blue, You have earthy green, which is somebody that's very grounded and relatively straightforward. And uh, you then have the fiery reds and the sunshine yellow. So I am very red, but also very yellow, luckily.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
like to just be very red alone. And I'm really not very blue and not very green. And I think it's a really interesting exercise. There's a great book called Surrounded by Idiots.
Fabulous book.
Yeah. And the whole concept of that is if you're very red and you work with somebody who's very green or very blue and you don't understand each other, then you're obviously going to really clash. But if you can find a way to work together, to cover each other's gaps, to understand each other and maybe make compromises in the way that you work together and your approaches to each other, then if you can understand them, then actually a really balanced team should cover that whole color wheel. And I think if you're an employer, it's really easy to employ lots of people like you because that's a safe space. It's people you might think you would get on well with or you would work well together. But I think you have to push yourself to also have a mix of other colors within a color wheel. And there's lots of other psychometric options out there. There's things like Myers-Briggs and
Yeah. We use DISC within my
there's,
business. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, I think having that understanding of yourself and of others, because nobody in any means is perfect. I'm absolutely not perfect. I've got things that I enjoy and things that I'm probably good at. I've got a lot of things that I really don't enjoy and that I'm really not good at. So I think the more aware you can be of those things, the more you can understand them and ultimately let other people lead on the things that they're really good at and get out of their way.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Again, though, I think in practice that's easier said than done. Yeah,
But
that's
yeah,
something I'm
awareness is the
working
first
on.
step, isn't it?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So obviously you can't scale a business without people, and you've touched on people. Are your people with you in Dingwall, or are they
I'm
spread?
actually not in Dingwall. Sorry, I missed a key part of the story.
Oh,
So yeah, I started in Dingwall, had a bit of an identity crisis because I'd moved from Dingwall to London, which was a huge shock to my
yeah, I can
system.
imagine.
I think it was harder moving from London to Dingwall because it was so different for me and it felt right at the time and it was a good part of my kind of journey. But ultimately I've ended up settling in Edinburgh where my husband
Oh,
was
okay.
working. And that felt like a really good in between for me. So it's got the culture, it's got the foodie scene. I'm a Highlander and I love the Highlands and Islands. I think they're really vibrant. I've got an office in Forest and really committed to the Murray economy in particular, but also the wider Highlands and Islands. But I think for me, I really find Edinburgh a great balance between the buzz of London and the great outdoors. And we've specifically chosen a house just to the kind of northwest of Edinburgh where we can go up the A9 quite quickly and easily. We've still got family and friends up there. We've split our time. Ultimately, so I've got about 30 colleagues. Around about half of them are in Edinburgh. Probably a quarter are based out of Forest in a physical office there. And the other quarter are what you'd probably class as remote workers. So they're predominantly home based. We've got a colleague, amazing person who is a retained firefighter in her community in Perthshire, works at home on the family farm, and then goes out on fire shouts and also does PR through the day in a really flexible way. I think flexibility is really important these days. On the same thing, there's something around a lot of the workforce in the PR industry is female. And I found when I was in London, I saw a lot of people leave the system really because they would have babies and then they would go, do you know what? I can't work these hours. I can't commute. It isn't my life anymore. It's not what I want. So I've worked quite hard to create a culture where working parents can find a role that suits them. So I've got
You don't want to lose that talent, do you? Yeah.
yeah. So we've got some people on school hours that work as senior managers in the business, but finish at 3 o'clock.
Yeah. No, the reason I asked was like going back to what you were saying about you'd gone to Dingwall and the roles weren't there the kind of job you wanted to do. And I was just wondering how that works. And I guess there's a bigger talent pool in Edinburgh for those that do want to be in the office, but that you have
Yeah,
opportunity in
absolutely.
2026, for goodness sake. So that's doable now.
Yeah. And our plan for this year is to establish ourselves better outside of Scotland. So
Okay.
We're looking at opportunities. We haven't finalised our plan and we haven't taken the full step yet, but we definitely want to try and establish potentially London and Manchester across later into this year.
That's exciting. Yeah. Yeah. Who's been your biggest supporter on your journey, Natalie?
Well, that's a good question. It's probably my poor husband, I'll be honest.
Let's give him a shout out. What's his name?
Peter. So yeah, we've got 3 children. So that's been a separate challenge of its own as well, because I'm 100% shareholder of my business. I've retained that equity throughout. And I would say only more recently really have I got to the stage of creating a really solid leadership team. So I've had 3 babies over the past kind of 10 years or so, and that's been a challenge of its own. But also my husband's really supportive. He mainly works from home. He works full time. I work more than full time. And he is on hand and does a lot of the school runs and the chicken pox. Someone's at home for a day or whatever. So yeah, I would say probably my husband. But there's a really good community as well in Scotland. There's some great support out there. There's Entrepreneurial Scotland, which is an amazing network of people growing businesses. There's Women's Enterprise Scotland, which is relevant to this podcast. I'm sure Carrie Curry and Lynn Caden head there really well. Vistage, really interesting network as well. And of course, coaching's a great route around. I know you're an action coach, and I've heard good things about Action Coach.
Have you worked with a business coach?
I've dabbled in it over time. I've worked, yes, occasionally. I'm not currently working with a coach, but I have worked with coaches in the past.
Yeah. So there, you see the value in that.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, I always like it when I get a guest that can tell the audience the benefits of working with having an outside perspective in your business.
Of course. Yeah. I think I've got a reasonably short attention span, so I think I take quite a lot of inspiration just from doing lots of different things. You know what I mean? Going to conferences, if there's a dinner with a good speaker, that you can go and ask questions and learn from somebody else's experience. I think and also audiobooks as well, if I'm driving anywhere.
Love an audiobook. What's your favourite business book then?
Probably Gino Wickman, and so Traction. I listen to that whenever I go anywhere if I've not got a book on the go. So I've probably listened to that hundreds of times now. I listen to it at 1.5 times speed, and I probably know half the words. But it's a really interesting book. The whole concept is the entrepreneurial operating system, and that is a series of different tools that you can use to operate your business from. I've tried to implement it over the years, and actually more recently, this is why I keep listening to it, because I'm really trying to make it all go in. So we are currently trying to adopt that as our kind of operating system of the business. It's got some really good concepts in it. One would be an accountability chart. So that is a really clear structure for your business of who owns what. You can't have more than one person in a seat, because if more than one person owns something, nobody does. And everybody has really clear understanding of what their role is. We're looking at rolling that out. We've also started at leadership team level, and we're trying to roll this out more widely to the rest of the business. The concept of rocks. A lot of the traction concept is that even when you've got traction in your business and you know where you're going, people tend to live in a 90-day world. And after around about 90 days, traction starts to fall off and people need to reset and check back in. So it's really a concept of having a clear view of what you want to achieve in the next 3 months and committing to those things. They need to be big, chunky, not the day job stuff, like your strategic projects that are going to get you to a stronger position. And you track those, you talk about them weekly, you check in if they're red, amber, or green, and you treat them as an issue if they're off track.
Yeah, yeah. I'm familiar with the book. The models are very similar to the ones that we work with in Action Coach. Yeah. It's good. A good tip to the listeners. Go and have a listen to or a read of Gino Wickman. Yeah, I get it. Do you think you were always going to be an entrepreneur? Was it, or
No, definitely not. No, I've always been a hard worker. So my dad had a tea shop, and he paid me £1 an hour one summer, and I was making £50 a week. And so I was really cheap labour. So I've always worked hard. I didn't work particularly hard at school, but I've been more interested in working hard outside of school. I'm probably not the most academic, but I'm more of a problem solver, trying things out, probably more on the creative end.
Uh-huh.
So no, even when I left my job in London and moved home, I wasn't really necessarily thinking I wanted to particularly grow a business, and certainly not a business of the size that I'm at already. And now I've got a lot more ambition for the future. So I think I've caught the bug rather than I always knew I was going to run a business.
Yeah, it is a bug, isn't it? It is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I couldn't imagine doing anything else now. I feel like this was my thing, even though it might have come to me in not the most direct way. It was a bit of a squiggly route. I'm definitely unemployable. And I just couldn't imagine, yeah, not running my own business now. So I think it was the right thing for me.
What you just touched on and we've not actually dug deeper into was growth by acquisition. So you're saying you've acquired 3 businesses. Was that like a proactive, was that a decision and you went out looking for a business to
No.
acquire, or did they come to you, or how did that come
Yeah,
about?
another kind of happy accident, probably in some
Uh-huh.
ways, that an opportunity that came to me. So when I moved back to Dingwall and I wanted to start my PR agency, there was a PR agency locally called Platform PR, run by Jane Cumming, who's very well known in our industry. And funny enough, I'd asked Jane for a job lots of times before I moved to London, but I used to send her my CV in the post, but she doesn't remember it, so it's been very memorable. So when I moved back, I contacted Jane and I said, Jane, I'm going to do my own thing and I'd love to just chat to you about it. And she was really welcoming and open. And we had a coffee and she told me some of the things that she did in a way of, these are mine, don't touch them really. And there's some things you might want to think about. She told me about a few clients she'd worked with and got fed up with and didn't want to work with anymore. So she said you could always go and try these guys. So she was really supportive. And we caught up for lunch every now and again over the years. So about 2 years in, we just went for lunch and Jane said to me, "Oh, I'm thinking about retirement." She's only just retired and this was in 2015. She said, "Do you want to buy my business?" And I said, "Oh, Jane, I've got about £50. I don't think I can, but thanks for the offer." So she said, "Actually, you don't need to give me loads of money today or upfront." She said, "I've got a profitable business with a really good client list and opportunity to acquire that client list, potentially grow some of it and take it forwards." So we came up with a really interesting deal that I would never have really considered, which was I took the business forwards, I acquired it, but I paid Jane over 3 years, effectively from the income from the clients. So it's actually quite similar to a management buyout, but in a different, I wasn't in the team. So it was that sort of concept. And I guess talking about the bugs, that kind of got me on this way of actually, you don't need loads of capital, you don't need lots of debt, you don't need to give away equity. If you find a good opportunity, you can actually think about more creative ways to finance growth.
Did she stay within the business or did,
She stayed
yeah.
as a consultant for 3 years. And then actually this was in 2015, and we were still doing some project work together up until maybe 18 months ago.
Oh,
And we've still got some of the clients from 2015. So it was lots of learnings, but a really good thing to do.
it's a good way for if anybody's listening and thinking about how do I get out? And is it worth
Absolutely.
anything to anybody? And who would buy it? Who would have the money to buy it? So
Yeah.
that's a brilliant thinking about it from Jane's perspective and also from your perspective. Yeah, it's
uh,
a win-win, doesn't it?
Totally. I think there's a bit of risk on the seller
Yeah.
because you need to have confidence in the buyer,
You're
especially.
not going to run it into the ground and there's no money left
Right.
to pay her.
Yeah. And in the Jane situation, the deal was pinned around fee income over that 3 years period. So it was effectively more like an earn out in style. I then did two subsequent acquisitions, one in 2021 and one about 18 months ago. And both of those, I took some learnings from the first one and assessed what the opportunities were. And actually, ultimately, for both of the others, I did them on a fixed amount basis where we agreed a value that we both were happy with. And we just went for a fixed price. And that didn't tie back into the fee or the income. So that's slightly favorable to the seller, really, because they know they're getting a fixed price, slightly more risky for the buyer.
Well,
Because
was it still staged payment?
yes,
Did you
both
pay
of
over
the others were. Yeah, yeah. The first one was over 12 months,
Mhm.
and the second one was over 18 months, or 2 years, sorry.
Yeah, brilliant. And so then you've acquired talent with those businesses as well.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah.
And so is there a challenge there with bringing people that have been doing it this way into your business and your culture? How do you manage that?
Yeah, definitely. That's a huge challenge. And I think there's lots of different levels that you think about that on. I think from a cultural perspective, every business has a unique culture, whether they've defined that and chosen it or whether it's just an assumed culture that's been created by the team. So I think you really need that cultural fit. Our values are to be kind, to get results, and to leave the world in a better place. So that feels clear, easy to understand cultural values. So yes, absolutely, it's challenging to bring two teams together. The bigger acquisition I did 18 months ago, we were 50. We were around just under 20 people, and the team was just under 15 that was coming in via the acquisition. So that's quite a large number of people and quite a
Yeah,
big
yeah.
percentage of the workforce. So yeah, I would say we're still working on that really, being very honest. It's not an easy, quick one thing to do. And we've definitely got lessons and things along the way. On a more practical level, there's things like the tools and the systems, Microsoft versus Google, various specialist tools we use within the comms industry. So there's bits of that as well that can just cause a bit of friction. And ultimately, we've been doing quite a lot of systems change over the last 6 months or so. We had a system each for lots of different things that were different systems that were similar but not the same. And some of those things we adopted one or the other. And in some cases, we went, actually, neither of these systems are fit for purpose for the bigger team that will become. So we actually had a bit of a disaster moving to a new agency management tool that we invested quite a lot of time and money into that ultimately it looked really good on the outside and we felt like it was the future. And we've actually moved away from it recently to something slightly simpler because it was too complex and it didn't necessarily do what it was meant to do.
Okay, yeah.
So that's been a challenge. That's been a point of friction for the team because if the team don't have simple systems that let them do their job easily, that's not a great situation. I think you have to go with something, try and make it work, but you also need to know when to stop and go, actually, this isn't the right system for us. Let's go back to the drawing board and find something that will do what we need to do.
And does that then cause, so is there that add additional challenges to the team with resistance to change? Oh, here we go. We're changing again. That last one
Exactly.
didn't work.
Yeah, so that is challenging and something we started with one called Office Vibe, which is pulse surveys. So the team get a weekly survey with 5 questions in it. Really good system. And then I mentioned our competency framework. So we've just changed to something called Leapsome, which is very similar, but builds in the competency too. So we do track a huge number of different factors around employee engagement. And yeah, the systems change has been challenging. And that's probably been one of our biggest challenges around keeping the team engaged and productive whilst trying to find a system that is doing things for us that we needed to do.
So the team engagement thing then, that's interesting because I guess though a lot of those systems are built for big corporates where there's hundreds of staff. When did you start implementing that in your team? How big was your team when you?
Probably only about 15 in the team when we
Yeah,
started using it, and it's been really useful. You do need a critical mass to be able to get
yeah.
useful data. And actually, if not enough people answer a specific question, then it doesn't even show you any answers. So I would say you probably need at least 15. But it's really useful. It shows you trends over time. It gives you an employer net promoter score, which tells you, it gives you a broad engagement figure for your team. And then you can just start to drill down into themes and different areas. Is it about feedback? That was one of the big ones that we had was people didn't feel they had clarity of feedback on how they were performing. So as a direct response to us seeing that number decline, we did this huge project around creating a new competency framework, delivering 360 reviews, and that's still a work in progress, but we're going in the right direction with that.
See if the number's increasing again. Yeah.
Not quite yet, because it's a work in
Okay.
but it will, it
Okay.
will. I'm
Yeah.
confident. We're doing the right things.
Yeah.
And we're showing the team that we listen, because I think that's really important. If you ask people to give you feedback, you need to
That
then
you actually,
you
I
need to
guess,
show that you've
they
followed
can see that you're
through.
acting on it. Yeah.
Otherwise, they stop filling
Yeah.
the form in, or, yeah, getting involved.
Oh, awesome. Good. Yeah, we're running out of time. Is there anything that I should have asked you, Natalie, that I haven't? Anything that you'd like to add to the conversation?
No, I don't think so. Female entrepreneurship is a really important topic. I think it's great that you have this podcast, you speak to female business leaders and entrepreneurs. Obviously, Women's Enterprise Scotland has done a lot of work in this space. I've been ambassador for WES, and there are huge gaps in terms of the funding landscape. And obviously, women do often have quite unique barriers and challenges, a big one being caring responsibilities. So, yeah, I think it's not easy, but it's such a rewarding thing to do, to grow a business, to create jobs for other people, and create good culture for people to, yeah, to come and join your journey.
If you had one piece of advice then to give to women that's thinking of starting or scaling, what would it be?
Oh, just do it, give it a shot. What's the worst that could happen? I think my risk appetite's grown over 14 years, but on day one, I had a laptop and a mobile phone and a notebook, and that was my business setup. So not every business is as simple and as accessible as that, but I think I just took it day by day and found opportunities, and then over time took a bit more risk, thought about things. I've taken bits of debt finance at certain points and able to support the next stage of growth. But broadly, I've just done it in bits and made it manageable for me. I've had babies and the pipeline's gone down a bit and the income's dropped, and I've gone, that's okay, as long as the outgoings are too and it's sustainable. So I think don't be too hard on yourself. Be ambitious, but go with the flow, see what happens. And actually it's a really exciting way to build your own adventure. And yeah, I'm it's definitely the route for me, and I'm glad I ended up here.
Fantastic. That's couldn't have had a better message to everybody as far as I'm concerned. That's fabulous. Natalie, it's been a real pleasure to talk to you today. And thank you for joining me on Scale Her Up.
Oh, thank you, Brenda. I really enjoyed it. Cheers.
And thank you to you for listening to Scale Her Up. If you enjoyed this episode, follow the show and leave a review. It helps more female business owners to find us. Come and join our Scale Her Up Facebook community to get support, accountability, and connection with women who get it. And remember, only 1 in 3 UK entrepreneurs are female, and men are still 5 times more likely to scale their business beyond £1 million in turnover than women. When we start and scale our businesses to the same extent as men, we'll add £250 billion to the UK economy and create millions of jobs. So ladies, you can do it, and your business can make a massive difference.